Progress on the narrowing gender pay gap has stalled. According to new analysis from Indeed, women still earn 83 cents on the dollar compared to men, and that equated to $217 less per week in 2024. Joining me now, we've got Priya Rathod, who is the Indeed career trends expert. Good to have you here with us, Priya. The gap has been at this level since 2019. Walk us through some of the findings from this report.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Nice to meet you, Brad, by the way, that, the gender pay gap is widening and women are continuing to make less than men. And it's the worst it's been since 2019. And what we're finding is it's particularly pronounced at the occupational level. So especially within sales and professional roles, we're seeing men make 30% more than women for those same roles. So the underrepresentation of women in these higher paying roles, coupled with the systemic pay inequities and disparities, they continue to fuel inequality in earnings across various industries. But what we're also finding is that other factors impact how workers experience this gender pay gap. The first of which is age. So the labor force participation rate between men and women widens with age, particularly during parenthood. This was especially apparent during the pandemic when we saw millions of women exit the workforce due to the lack of available childcare. Race also plays a role. So the gender wage gap persists across all racial groups, with Asian men earning 23% more than Asian women, followed by gaps of 16% for Hispanic workers, 15% for white workers, and 14% for Black workers. And then there's the matter of education. The gap widens with education level as well. By late 2024, men with advanced degrees earn 25% more than similarly educated women. So we're really seeing this across the board, and it's exacerbated by things like age, race, and education.
So what role do employers play in closing this gender pay gap, especially knowing many of them, not many, but there have been some very noteworthy rollbacks that we've seen in diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, and part of that was an effort to also close the equity gap.
Absolutely, Brad. That's a great question. And employers really do have a responsibility to do their part to help close this gap and create these equitable workplaces where everyone can thrive. And so the three key barriers that employers can address are as follows. Number one is pay transparency. As of February 2025, 60% of job postings on Indeed contain salary information, which is great because that is up from just 18% in 2020. So pay transparency really helps women become better equipped to ask for what they deserve, negotiate fair wages, and it really does keep employers accountable. So that is a huge one. The second one will be no surprise to you, and it was mentioned earlier in your segments, but remote and flexible work. Across all age groups, women consistently cite the ability to work remotely as a critical factor when they're considering job opportunities. In fact, Indeed data shows that 57% of women ages 35 to 44 have applied for a job specifically because it was fully remote. And of that group, 48% had children under the age of 18. So again, remote and flexible work is key for this audience. It's important to note as it relates to flexible work that the demand is increasing, but unfortunately, the supply is decreasing. So remote positions have decreased since 2022, and they only account for 8.3% of all advertised positions on Indeed. So this decline is really indicating a shift towards in-office work again. And then the last key barrier that employers really need to address is family leave benefits. So mentions of employer family-related benefits are increasing on Indeed, which is great, but they are still rare, with only 7% of our job postings mentioning paid family leave. And as we all know, without adequate paid family leave, many women are forced to take career breaks that impact their long-term earnings and may even prevent them from re-entering the workforce in the future.
And so just lastly, while we have you here, because I want to give women some actionable tips out there and help everybody empty the quiver of all the arrows that they can throw at new opportunities in their negotiation. What are the top tips for advocating for equal pay in those negotiations?
Yes, Brad. First of all, know your worth. I think this was mentioned in your earlier segments as well. Research on industry standards for your role, know what you're paid for that role in that region, and come to the table armed with that kind of data. It's going to allow you to present a strong case when you're negotiating for a pay raise or a promotion. And then the second is network and community. You need to build a solid professional network, both inside and outside your organization. These are the connections that are going to offer mentorship, help you work through challenges, help bring new opportunities to the table. And so really consider networking inside and outside your organization. And a big part of that can be joining inclusion resource groups or employee resource groups within your company. I am the co-chair of our Parents and Caregivers Inclusion Business Resource Group, and I can tell you firsthand that we work towards advocating for specific policy for parents and for women across the organization. Also, document your achievements. My sister told me many years ago, and I do it to this day, create an A-list folder in your email, on your Google Drive. Document all those accomplishments. Use them in your performance reviews. Use them when you're asking for a promotion. Show where you've made a great impact across the organization. And finally, it sounds simple, but ask. You are never going to know the answer if you don't ask. Ask for that raise. Ask for that flexible work arrangement. Ask for higher, pay and promotion. That's going to be the key to maintaining your work-life balance, and you need to ask.
Yeah, as the famous quote goes, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, and so it's important. Put the shot up there. Shooter's going to shoot. Priya, thanks so much.
Exactly.